Here,
Oh,
there you go.
all right.
Very
Good
good.
morning. Here we are. So thanks a lot. Welcome, everybody. It's great to have you all joining us this morning. Just welcome to this information session put on by the New York Wine and Grape Foundation. Really interesting, certainly timely topic. The session is on EV make-ready opportunities that are available through utilities that are offering this incentive program all across New York State. Val Ross, it's nice to see folks on the line this morning. I'm with the New York Wine and Grape Foundation team that brings you our webinar series every month, along with the most important person, who is our membership manager, Jennifer Cooper. So thank Jennifer and Whitney for putting this together today. In today's session, we're going to be covering a lot, including the increased EV incentives that are available through your particular region's utility, plus other funding resources, eligibility and funding tiers, what improved installers are out there that can help you shepherd your project through the process, and very importantly, what's the timeline for all this and what's the availability of funding through the year end 2025. And thankfully, bringing us all this information is not me, but Whitney Skeens from National Grid's program for electric vehicles in New York. She's the lead program manager. And in that role, she oversees the implementation of National Grid's EV Charging Make Ready program, which has set the goal of delivering $154 million in business customer incentives to install 9,000 charging plugs across the company's upstate service territory by the end of 2025. So that's ambitious and very exciting. Whitney, we're really looking forward to your presentation today. I know we probably will have lots of questions, so we would just encourage folks that are on the line live here to send in their questions through the chat or through the Q&A tool at the bottom of your screen. This is a meeting format, so we're also happy to kind of chat directly with you as we go along or after Whitney's done presenting. But I know there's a wealth of information to get to first, so Whitney, I guess I'm happy to hand it right over to you if you're ready to go.
I am ready, Valerie. Thank you so much. And really appreciate the leadership of the New York Wine and Grape Foundation for hosting today's webinar. And for the three of you that are joining us, thank you. I look forward to connecting with you individually with any questions. And I will keep this really high level and as brief as possible, recognizing, summer is a difficult time, but I've also can fly through this information and make sure that we stay on track for the day. So thank you again. So National Grid is one of several utilities, and I'll go into some details in a bit, but we are supporting the future of cleaner transportation. I'm delighted for this organization, for the leadership, and also just having had opportunity to meet one of your member wineries at an event and exploring the possibility, and also having some experience with visitors to wineries looking to have that amenity. And in the next 10 or 20 minutes, we're going to talk through sort of the big picture, the why, the baseline requirements of eligibility, and some stackable resources. And then as you may, Valerie is recording the session as well. The deck will be emailed to you. So look forward for your questions, but really starting with the why. And National Grid is one of 6 utilities. You can see the others listed: Central Hudson, Con Ed, NYSEG, Argini, and Orange and Rockland. We are all regulated electric providers that were ordered by New York State in July of 2020 to implement an EV incentive program for business customers. It is ratepayer funded, and in sum, it represents almost $1.25 billion to support a variety of incentives to enable cleaner transportation. We're going to focus on that first line item there, the commercial make ready, which is available for any business customer. So the next reason why, beyond regulation, is the market. As you, I'm sure, have observed, there are brand new EVs rolling onto the road every day, though it's about 3% ownership nationally. 8% of new car sales is what we're seeing, and that's trending upward each year. In New York, there's roughly 220 registered EV drivers, 220,000, and that's up from 150,000 in 23 and 89,000 in 2022. So we're seeing, a representative proportion of about 4% of all new vehicles registered in the state. And as you have seen lots of announcements from manufacturers, US sales are anticipated to rise dramatically in the next 5 years, by 2030 representing about 30% of drivers. So there's lots of opportunity. You may be surprised to learn that I should say a majority of registrations in New York State are actually all battery electric vehicles rather than plug-ins. So about 125,000 battery electric versus 85,000 plug-ins. So the trending is more for all electric, and that's represented by a variety of manufacturers. Batteries are improving, the ranges are improving, and technology is just getting better to support the identification of chargers for people in the public that are needing to find a charger on their routes. Obviously, there's environmental wise. In the Northeast, transportation represents 30% of greenhouse gas emissions. So I know that's a motivator for some of our customers. And then most importantly for this audience is really the driver for dwell time. Clearly, when people find a charger, they may stay a little bit longer. They may enjoy your property. They may enjoy a little bit more wine, and they may spend a little bit more money. And as I mentioned earlier, I did have the pleasure of meeting Suzanne Hunt from Hunt Country Wineries in the Finger Lakes region. And she shared a story with me about building it and people coming. So thank you. And I'd love to hear, your motivation for being here today and where you're located. So in terms of New York and National Grid, we have about $154 million to invest of that $1.25 billion. And the majority of that is for commercial make ready, that first line. But we also offer other incentives, and I will touch upon those in a little bit. As you can see, our upstate service territory is anything in this map that is either orange or yellow. So we do not cover a big part of the Finger Lakes. However, you can see we have quite a bit of service territory electric, and any business customer in this yellow or orange shaded area is eligible for National Grid's program. The other utilities that I mentioned do have make ready programs, and I would encourage you, if you're in their territory, to connect with them on details. The basic eligibility requirements that I'm going to cover are fairly standard across the board for all utilities because they were defined in that order in 2020. However, the implementation and some of the application process may look and feel a little bit differently. So National Grid is supporting all segments under this program, workplace and public and retail, and these types of projects to the far right here are what we're going to cover today, but I wanted to orient you as well. We're working with school bus operators and school districts, as well as medium and heavy duty fleet, in order to support their electrification as well. And so you can see some examples of projects that we've worked on the light duty side. What is eligible in this program? This graphic is really nice. Everything in this red box is considered infrastructure, and this is the portion that we will look to cover. You can see it's divided by a dotted line there. There's two different types of infrastructure. There's customer side, and then there's utility side. Every project is going to have customer side infrastructure. This is connecting the meter to the location of the station. If your property has limited capacity and these charging stations will require additional capacity, or if you're building a new parking lot and you want to run a separate service, there may need to be some utility side infrastructure. And so those elements may also be a part of your project. We look at that total cost of installation, labor, materials, permitting. You can see some examples there: switchgear, step-up transformers, bigger projects, which may not apply, but any upgrades to infrastructure would be considered coverable in the Make Ready incentive. We do not cover hardware, the signs, bollards, and maintenance, as well any equipment beyond the meter. So the equipment coverage, there are other resources I'm going to talk about in a bit that may be able to assist, if eligible, with the hardware side of the equation. Everyone always asks, what are my costs? This red box here typically represents about 60 to 65% of overall project cost. And every project is a snowflake. We encourage customers to assess the cost by calling one of our approved installers. The eligibility criteria for that red box, we look to cover up to 50, up to 90, or up to 100% of infrastructure. And these various tiers are defined by the descriptions you see there. In the case of wineries throughout upstate New York, so long as your property is not gated or barricaded from public access, the incentive would be in that middle 90% tier. These are publicly available charging projects with standard plug types. And there are two types of charging stations that we cover and that you'll see in the public space. Level 2 chargers are the most common. That's a 6 to 8 hour window to fully charge. You're going to see these at public destinations. Most likely, this is what you would be investigating. However, National Grid and the other utilities do also have make-ready incentives for fast chargers. This is the 30 minutes or less to fully charge, mostly going to be along highways for people that are on long trips. These are very load-intensive projects, 10 times the cost and complexity. So most of our projects in the program are level 2. And in the case of the travel tourism industry, that is what you're most likely going to be looking at and seeing. There are no maximums in terms of project size or total incentive cap per customer. Every project, however, must have at least 2 plugs to qualify. In terms of the first step for a customer, you are going to connect with an approved installer. The approved installer will come out to the property, walk the site, discuss options with you, discuss costs, discuss equipment selection, all of the details around what it would take to put in a charger or steps. You can see here that the installer then will apply on behalf of the customer. So we have a very nice list of approved installers that have experience in our program. They take all the guessing out of it. They would submit an application to our portal. They're going to attach a site plan and a cost summary. We will review that, approve that, and then get an email to you as the customer with the total incentive commitment. And once the project is fully constructed, we will pay out the incentive. Typically, we are paying that to the installer with your permission, but we can route it directly to the customer if that is your preference. In addition, future proofing is another sort of category of incentive that we look for. Not all projects have future proofing. We like to see it. It's smart planning. Essentially, it means oversizing your infrastructure to prepare for additional stations in the future. So you may decide today, I want to put in 4 plugs, but a year or 2, maybe 5 years down the road, you want to have the guts in the ground for additional stations to support the demand, in which case the future proofing components of infrastructure are coverable. The way we do that is we look at that total red box that I mentioned earlier, and we take 10%, up to 10% of that total. And that is something additional. It's an adder that we would be able to contribute to the project. So if you're interested, if you want to go a little smaller and initially talk to your contractor about future proofing the project. As I mentioned, there are lots of other additional incentives and credits to support your projects. Everything is stackable that you see here. Some of it is illustrative. These other programs would not apply in your case, but both state and federal tax credits are available. Charging projects are considered a business cost and an investment. And so I would encourage you to check out those credits with your accountant. Additionally, NYSERDA has what is called a Charge Ready program. And all of these, by the way, are linked in this deck, so you can check them out. NYSERDA is funding public destinations and is looking to support what would be considered a workplace. So if there are certain criteria that may or may not apply in your case, but I would encourage you to investigate. And if you have questions, a lot of our installers are working with customers to determine qualification for an NYSERDA, and even in some cases apply to that program as well on your behalf. You can see here some examples of the other ways and means that National Grid is working with our customers on the transit side, as well as the medium heavy duty and school bus electrification. And in these larger projects, some of you may have fleet, eventually looking to convert trucks, light duty vehicles, or heavy duty vehicles. We will be working with our customer to navigate the journey. We provide a complimentary fleet assessment to come out and also determine the site feasibility, the capacity of your site, and then working with you to determine the potential bill impacts. This is primarily for larger heavy duty fleets, but nonetheless, we will be working as well with light duty. So if you have trucks or you have an operation that eventually you may look to electrify your fleet of vehicles, we would love to hear from you and plan forward. Lots of ways that you can connect with us through our website. We additionally have a list to that approved contractor community. There are about 70 companies that have experience working in our program that have brought projects to us. You can see the visual there of the first page of that list. And then any other resources that you may need as a general EV driver, perhaps. We do have a program that's coming soon that will be providing an off-peak incentive to charge in hours between 11 p.m. and 7 a.m. You can see our team here. I'm located out in the Buffalo region. We do have other project managers throughout the state that will be coordinating projects and working with our approved installers to support your goals, and look forward to your questions. Thank you very much. Back to you, Veronica.
Hello, I'm back. I know we have a small group, so this is definitely a time to ask some questions. I don't think you covered it, but if you did, I apologize. Can you just give us a sense of how long it takes from start to finish when you do start the process to installation?
Yeah, great question. So it really depends on the level of load that we're bringing out. If there are the utility side infrastructure requirements, it may take a bit longer. Generally, on a project of 2 to 4 plugs, which is probably the use case here, those projects span about 2 to 3 months. And again, it's all dependent upon the installer and their availability to get out to the site, construct, and we are seeing an increased demand. Most of our projects now are coming in on average 6 or 8 ports, seeing a lot of multi-unit dwellings, a lot of hotels, again, in your industry that are supporting those drivers that are coming in for overnight.
Sure. And would you be able to go back to that screen that showed you the link? I know we're going to send out the deck later, but the link to the whole region, because we do have a lot of Finger Lakes wineries in our membership and on the line. So
absolutely.
And you said that the process is pretty similar. It doesn't really matter what utility you work through, correct?
It does not matter. As I said, our portal for application is going to be a little bit different from NYSEG's portal. And our process may be slightly different, but there is a Joint Utilities of New York State, which is sort of the collective of all 6 utilities. We have under that umbrella a very, very long list of approved installers. Many of them have not yet done work in New York State, or maybe they have registered to be participating in the program. The list that is linked to the deck here for National Grid are companies that have actually performed projects in the program. So we've tried to whittle it down and get customers to that list first, recognizing experience, but there are many. And if you have one in your region, it's very likely that they would be on the Joint Utilities list and have already explored and potentially even done work in the program. So the nice thing about this map, and I didn't call it out earlier, is that you can click on the variety of counties here, and you can see down to the city and village and town level who is in National Grid service area and who is not. Some of those counties are a little bit of a Swiss cheese situation. So this is a very nice resource. And if you have questions, we can certainly.
Yeah, I think Scott might have one. I'm wondering.
Yes.
I have one.
Since there's only like 4 or 5 of us on it, instead of using the chat, I'll just talk to you. But
Sure.
we're in the NYSEG district. So do you have contact information for them?
I do.
So
I do.
Get approved installers and stuff like that. So I'd like to have that if you got it. So
absolutely, I can pull that actually and throw it in the chat. The joint utilities is a good place to start, but I will get that to you, Scott, in just a moment. Any other questions?
Again, here's one from Val who maybe missed this. What if you started this on your own? So what if you did install some chargers on your own? Does that affect, and if so, how, your participation in the program?
That's a great question. If you've started some and you've already paid for infrastructure, it's not something that we can do again. If it's simply like rip and replace project, we're not able to do that. These have to be new charging installations to support new stations. However, there may be some possibility if the books haven't yet closed on a project that it could be considered as a new application. Again, it's really up to the utility. We tend to we try our best to be able to bring them in, but it's not always possible depending upon where the project is. If the books are fully closed on it, there's not a whole lot we can do.
Right, but if you have a project that's done and you want to add on, those are new charging stations and eligible. Okay, great.
Yes, for sure. Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. Well, like Scott said, we're a small but mighty group. So if anybody else on the line wants to unmute or flip on their video and has questions for Whitney, I'm sure she'd be happy to take them. Giving people another minute while Whitney's putting that contact information in. Of course, we'll send out the deck and the recording for this. But it seems like kind of if you're interested in a project like this, it's more just exploring what the next step is with, a provider and with your particular utility.
Yes.
But it sounds like we do have a few wineries interested. So that's really good news. And I know that it's just going to get bigger and bigger as far as the interest in our membership.
The first and most important step is connecting with an approved installer. And as I said, the Joint Utilities of New York State has a list, and I can also throw that in the chat, that is filterable by utility. And so you can pop that up and select. And I would, again, always recommend contacting a couple, 2 or 3, and getting them out for site visits. They will, again, recommend equipment. They'll recommend siting that is suitable to the property, suitable to your budget. And then they can also submit an application in most cases to the programs, whether it be National Grids or NYSEG or RG&E. And they will be able to determine kind of what the bottom line is before you ever, have to commit. I always suggest to customers explore the resources today. You mentioned earlier, Valerie, that this program, when it was released in that order in 2020, was slated to conclude at year-end 2025. We have had some midterm review by the state, all of the utility programs, and they have suggested that there will be a sloping deadline. We have plenty of funding remaining, and it's been a challenge to utilize the investment for the customer because there's not a lot of demand between, particularly, as you head a little bit further west, not as much demand. So the state has said that they would be making these funds available, and we would be able to implement beyond the 2025 original deadline. So that's very good news. and there's lots of room to grow, and looking for all new customers interested in finding out more. As I said, check out the approved installer list, make some calls, and get your homework done.
Will do. This is great, and hopefully the interest just, snowballs and gets bigger and bigger, because I don't see it, going down anytime soon. And we'll share this with all of our members, and we'll also be sending out these links as well in the recording and follow-up. So thanks everybody for your time. This is great information, and we enjoyed meeting you, Whitney, and hopefully we will be in touch soon. We'll stay in touch, and thanks for joining us. Nice to see you, Scott.
Yep.
Take care.
Nice to see you, Valerie.
Thank you so
Bye.
much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Valerie. Thank you,
Take
Scott,
care.
Jackie, Charlotte. Bye-bye.